of all the heel turns that have happened in the world of professional wrestling, who would be on the Mount Rushmore of those heel turns? And the Mount Rushmore, obviously, you can only pick 4. And I have a couple that just absolutely belong on this. So I'll throw one out, and you can throw one out. We'll go back and forth. The one that absolutely has to be on there, and maybe it's the greatest heel turn of all time. You mentioned it earlier that the NWO changed the business. And the reason it changed the business is because that man on your YouTube screen, Hulk Hogan, traded his red and yellow for black for the first time in his career, or his well-known career. He was a heel in the early 80s and late 70s. But for what the world knew him as, finally turning heel, ditching the vitamins and the prayers and all the deal, became Hollywood Hulk Hogan. It changed the business. It has to be on the list. If you have to pick,
has to be the top one.
See, I think so too.
Has to be the top one because it really changed not only in WCW, but it changed WWE. It just changed the whole business, how people looked at it.
Yep, it really did. All right, what's one that you would put on your, if we establish, okay, that one is a solidified spot. So we got 3 spots left. Who's a heel turn that you would want to put up there?
Well, I've got a list of 10. We don't have time to do all 10, so I'll just pick one out here. I think that one that people really don't think about, when Randy Savage turned on Hulk Hogan.
That's interesting.
Over jealousy of Miss Elizabeth.
That's a really good one. No, I would not. Yeah.
It happened in the year of
1988.
In the 80s.
Yep.
And he turned on him, and then he beat him in the WrestleMania that year.
Yep.
For the title.
Yep. Hogan won the title back.
Yep.
In 89, sort of ending that feud, and Macho was a heel after that. But that's a fantastic heel turn. Okay. So maybe that belongs on the list. Let me tell you something else that might belong on the list is the infamous Barber Shop incident. The Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels throwing Marty Jannetty through the window, ending the partnership of the Rockers, at least for the most part. They reunited in a one-off, but still springboarding the singles career of the greatest in-ring performer of all time.
Definitely made Shawn Michaels.
Yes.
And I kind of hate to say it, it sort of made Marty Jannetty's career ended.
Yes.
On that day.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason.
I mean, he hung around to do things,
right,
but his really career was a tag team partner with Shawn. And after that happened, he didn't have a career anymore.
Well, there's a reason when you look at tag teams and you say, okay, who's Shawn and who's Marty in the tag team? Yeah. It's like there's a reason for that. So I think that is just a game-changing moment in the business. Nobody had ever seen somebody get thrown through a window like that. That was just revolutionary from not only a storyline perspective, from a visual perspective, just a fantastic moment that I think belongs on there. All right, give me another one.
This one is real old school.
Uh-oh.
Andre the Giant actually turned on Hulk Hogan.
Yep.
Before their WrestleMania match.
That's what set up their WrestleMania 3
and
match.
And he aligned with Bobby Heenan.
Yep.
Which we all know was probably the greatest heel manager in the world.
And I don't think Andre had ever been a heel at that point. Just because he was a giant and he was an attraction, and that's the way Vince always used him.
He was a good guy all the way throughout, up until that point. And it worked.
Yep. It did, because it put Hogan over. And you listen to people and they said it's the only time Andre ever lost. Well, that's not really true. But in any event, that's the story.
One of the few times.
One of the few times, yes. Fantastic heel turn. No, you're absolutely right. Let me give you another one. Let's go a little more modern. Let's go in 2015. The destruction of the Shield by Seth Rollins turning on Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose. They had a shorter run than a lot of people realize, as dominant as they were as a unit. And as I said earlier, I think Seth Rollins is the greatest in-ring performer of this generation. Dean Ambrose would go to AEW and become Jon Moxley and really be the face of that company, in my opinion. And then Roman Reigns just had the fourth longest WWE Championship reign of all time, really flipped his career around. So the argument can be made, if this heel turn doesn't happen, none of that happens.
Exactly. It spurned the careers of all three of them. Just like a rocket. They all took off.
It did.
I mean, the Shield were good, and they had a lot of good matches, but like you said, it was short-lived, but their careers took off like a rocket.
Yep.
After this happened.
Yeah, it absolutely did. All right. We haven't filled up all four yet. Give me another one.
Eddie Guerrero turns on Rey Mysterio.
Oh, and then we get the battle. Speaking of Rey Mysterio, there's one to think about. Rey's son, Dominic,
turns on him.
So it's a vicious cycle, because you get Eddie turning on Rey, and then they battle for the custody of Dominic. And then you get Dominic 18 years later, or whatever it is, and he's now in the business, and everybody's turning on Rey. Dad, what is it about everybody turning on Rey Mysterio?
Because Rey is such a good guy.
I guess. I mean...
But again, it elevated Rey. When Eddie turned on it elevated Rey even more than what he was.
I agree.
And then when Dominic did what did to his dad, it shot him up like a rocket in the position he's in today. But he's young. He's still got a long way to go. But he's off to a great start, and this probably spurned it on.
I agree. Lots of great heel turns. There's only 4 spots on Mount Rushmore. I don't know that we're going to sit here and solidify all 4 spots, but I'm telling you right now.
But I can give you one more real quick one.
Yep.
KO turned on Chris Jericho.
I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Festival of Friendship.
I can't believe I didn't think of that.
In 2017.
That's one of my favorite storylines of all time. I think it's the best storyline Chris Jericho ever did. I can't believe I didn't think of that. Wow. Yeah, I mean, that belongs on Mount Rushmore right there. That's just so masterfully done. And what's so funny is that Triple H, Vince McMahon, was not at Monday Night Raw the night that happened. And Vince had basically given Jericho the green light, Jericho and Owens the green light to do whatever they wanted. Mm-hmm. And they had all this lined up, and it was approved, and apparently they got to TV. And Triple H, it's been insinuated that it was Triple H. I can't say for sure that it was him, but it was insinuated that Triple H didn't like the creative, and he wanted to change it because Vince wasn't there. And Jericho calls Vince and got it fixed the way that he wanted it to, and that's what we saw on screen. So, yeah, that Kevin Owens was a made man already because he was the Universal Champion at that point.
And he already beaten John Cena.
Exactly. So he had some really good stuff already. So that moment didn't necessarily make him, but man, it was such a fitting way to just shift that whole story that the fans just absolutely hated. I love that.
Then the last one I'll mention real quick. When Stone Cold turned heel and shook hands with Vince McMahon and turned on The Rock.
Yeah. It's a heel turn you didn't see coming. I agree. Yeah, it's one of those because so many people so many different opinions on it. Stone Cold even says he wouldn't have done it if he would have thought about it. But I think it's monumental for the fact that nobody saw it coming. So I think it deserves, again, I don't think we can come up with the exact 4 because, again, wrestling is about opinion. You think Ric Flair is the greatest wrestler of all time. I'm going to tell you that Shawn Michaels is, and you can't convince me otherwise.
I need to correct you on that.
Okay, sorry.
The American Dream
is a better in-ring performer than Ric Flair? I thought I'd never hear you say that. Is the sky falling?
Dusty Rhodes is number one.
Shawn Michaels. Okay.
Well, Dusty, Rick, and Shawn. And Taker. I'll give you my four.
Shawn's right. All right.